Coming to you live from Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for another episode of Tech Talk with your host, Joey Klein.
Welcome to another episode of Tech Talk. It's been a little while. There's been a lot of travel involved, but happy to be back. And we have a really interesting guest today, Paul Raley from Audality. How are you, Paul?
I'm doing very well.
Excellent. So, Paul, what I've been excited about in regards to this conversation is, we do technology, right, with a capital T. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
well, that is a very, very wide category with many different little subheadings underneath.
Of course.
And I think when a lot of people who listen to this show think about technology, they're thinking about the SaaS companies, that are generally on here, no matter what industry they're in, marketing, fintech, whatever it might be. It's rare that I get a true hardware company on here, and that's why I'm excited to have this conversation, because I feel like, you read the news, you look at who's being funded and sort of who are the entrepreneurial rock stars are that are written about. A lot of these are software companies, and what perhaps goes a little bit unsung are a lot of really innovative hardware companies out there. So I'm very interested to hear your story and have you talk a little bit more about what you do.
Well, thank you. Very looking very much forward to giving you a little bit of an intro to our company.
Yeah. So let's take a step back and just tell me about yourself, your background. You have a very unique background in terms of the industries in which you have worked. So
True.
Give me the bio.
And sometimes it's a little bit difficult to see how the thread comes together, but laid out like this. Came to Atlanta in 1980, right out of university, and studied while I was in university electronics and mathematics and physics and the like. But along that way, developed a passion for audio. And one of my very influential professors really helped me a lot along that journey of getting involved in audio development early on, even as a hobby in university. And when I came to Atlanta, however, it was not audio at all that brought me here. I came in the aerospace industry. So I started out with Loral Electronics, working on fighter aircraft and surveillance aircraft for the United States government.
Yeah, a far cry from what you do today.
A far cry from what I do today. But I must say, though, it was an amazing and excellent background for me to have, a very wonderful training platform for me, and laid the foundation for a lot of what we're doing today.
Okay, so take us through the journey, and draw the line from military engineering to audio professional.
Right. So I came out in spring of 1980 when there was a lot of need for embedded engineers and microprocessor engineers working in high-end aircraft. I worked on the F-16. I worked on did some work from the F-15, F-14, a lot of those kind of aircraft and intelligence gathering aircraft. So, got some chops, if you will, in doing microprocessor embedded design and early on working in systems that were in radio frequency generations, if you will, and all this stuff was in the black world. Never knew how that would eventually connect. I did that for, I would say 8 years of my career. I transitioned from an engineering and engineering management role at that time into a business development role in that same area. And about 13, 14 years in, I decided that I needed to diversify my background a little bit. And I went out and searched and ended up with a position with Scientific Atlanta, where I went over to the satellite world, get a little bit over in the commercial side. So I didn't have all my background in the military electronics, where we did satellite communications equipment for a whole new generation of satellites put up by Iridium, satellite for the satellite telephone. We did asset tracking and management devices, so we did a lot of radio work, a lot of wireless things, Stayed there into the late 90s, and I was drawn away as my first entrepreneurial venture by a startup company out of Australia, because in my time at Scientific Atlanta, I spent a good period of my efforts overseas. A lot of international business, a lot of international work, and all around developing technology and cutting-edge technology in radio communications. So went to one of these satellite startups, lured me over. We did that for a while. In 2003, I finally started my own company, an engineering product development company here in Atlanta.
Okay, so you brought up something that I want to dig into. Are you an entrepreneur by choice or by circumstance?
Oh, no, by choice.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely by choice. It's and that's something, we can talk at whatever length you want, but I believe it's almost a gene, if you will, right?
Well, that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Because look, some people, it's such a gene that they can't work for anyone else, right? They start right from the point that they're in professional life, and for some people, it's biding their time until the right idea, right opportunity comes along. But the idea of forever taking orders from someone else, forever being a part of someone else's mission, is still anathema to who they are.
Well, and that's I think there's a piece of that, and but I also recognize that there was a foundation that needed to be established.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the connections that I developed around the world, the experience base I developed around the world, could not have served me any better, and the timing was right. Okay, and all along that way, I was continuing to, as a hobby on the side, develop and audio equipment, and I actually built guitar amps for our group and things like that, just to keep my hand in things related in that space, and just really watched for the right opportunity and the right timing.
Yeah. Okay. So let's dig into the musical audio side of you. Mm-hmm. So how long have you been a musician for?
Oh, I've been a real hack at the guitar for probably 45 years. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Music of choice.
Oh, I like just about everything.
Yeah.
I just like, interestingly enough, as we developed Audality and the whole company based around that, we'll get into that some more in a minute, I've been exposed to quite a lot. And we have quite a following in the heavy metal world. And interesting. So I've gotten exposed to things that I wouldn't have normally chosen.
I can understand that. I'm actually a big heavy metal guy.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay, so musician for a while, passion for audio and music throughout your life, and at a certain point, you figure out that you can actually make this a part of your professional life.
Yeah. So I said that we started the engineering product development group in 2003, and I just called it Paul Raley and Associates Incorporated. And we developed products for all kinds of marketplaces. But we did wireless communication devices that are used in oil refineries, okay? And always, the thread is always somebody comes to us with a real market need. And there we developed an interesting capability because of this satellite background that I had when I was at Scientific Atlanta. We did a lot of work with international satellite startups and developing new radios for their new low Earth orbit satellites that we're putting up. So we really started developing our little group, a real capability in wireless and in cutting edge wireless connectivity. So along that journey, we were actually approached by a small guitar manufacturer out of the Northeast who serves mostly the folk music community, who said, look, we're crying out for something wireless to bring the level of quality. That was his whole problem at that point. We don't have the quality that we need. And, of course, I'm spending some time at a wedding reception and afterwards, into the night, we're playing good music. And it turned out that his particular interest and desire was fertile ground. We went out and did some market research, spent about 6 months looking at what he was talking about, And basically he was building $6,000-$8,000 handmade acoustic guitars, but none of the wireless connectivity solutions for that instrument were high enough quality for him to get behind putting it with his guitar.
And for those listening who are musicians, right, we're really talking about the difference of, okay, if you go and see your favorite band play live, right, there are a couple options, right? You've got a guitarist that takes a plug into his guitar and plugs it right into an amplifier, or you've got a plug into the guitar that then goes to sort of a box that, generally sits either on, your jeans or your guitar strap that is communicating with the amp.
Right. And there were products like that out there. And this is what when he brought this to us, I said, hey, there are products, He said, yeah, but I'm not happy with the products. And so we did the research, and what we saw early on is we said, okay, we think we can solve this problem, but in doing the market research for that, we said there is such a broad market for an ability to deliver audio in a 24-bit audio that's uncompressed. Okay, and that makes the difference. And so we launched on a journey to do that. Yeah.
Okay, and so right, the challenge is, can you have the same sort of fidelity not being plugged in?
That's
okay,
it. That's it.
Right. Okay, so what does your product look like or do that is different from what was currently available out there?
Okay, so basically what we were able to do, and this was using some technology that just on the beginning edges of being developed when they approached us. So it took a couple of years before we could finish developing that technology. But we actually sampled the audio, again, at 24-bit high rate, and we send it at a very high data rate stream that you can't accomplish with Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, and even the UHF and VHF. These are the other frequency type radios that were out there. They can't do that, and so we're able to send a lot of information and keep it all going over. And then when it's received at the little box that's plugged into your mixing board or your amplifier. Then we turn it back around and produce it as the full spectrum audio that generated it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And obviously, we're the examples that we've been giving right now are a very limited one of a guitarist. But
Right.
Of course, this can apply to any sort of
And
sound.
that's exactly right. So when we did the market analysis, and by the way, we school a lot of entrepreneurs on this that have come to us with many, many things. We've developed all kinds of products for people in the Atlanta area. And we always have the mantra is, we would love to do this for you. We can do most anything you want. Are you sure that you can sell it and you can sell enough for it to be worth your money spent, right? So we did the research on it was interesting, of course, because I'm a guitar player, but I thought, that's a fairly narrow market. But when we got into it and looked and we said, wow, if we do this right, there's so many other markets that we can address with this. So once we brought the first generation guitar system out, we built a few thousand of them and sold out. Okay, and we have turned the I would say revised, if you will, the product, and the product that's on the market now on our website is called the M1. We incorporated a lot of the features that our early adopters, worked with us to say, hey, make it do this. Can you have it do that? And so it's still a product. We're not walking away from it. We just released the newest revision, and it's out there. But we immediately said, now we take this core technology, and this can do wireless speakers. This can do wireless headphones. This can do microphones. It can do a lot of things. Okay.
And so are you talked about wanting to develop something that the folks that you sold to could actually market. So are we purely a business-to-business company, or can consumers actually purchase products directly from you?
Okay, so consumers can actually purchase products from us on our website, www.audality.com. But the model we have, the predominant model of the company, is that we are seeking the OEM model. Okay, all right, and I've had much luck with that in the past. And our story there is there are plenty of companies who are now in discussions with us and adopting the technology who've been in a vertical market for a long time. Okay, they're looking to take their products to the next level. They would like that wireless connectivity, but it doesn't meet their standards, what is available now. And those are the people that are starting to pick up. And what we do is provide that core technology.
So are you licensing the technology to them, or are you actually providing them with a physical piece of hardware that is sort of, let's take the software term, it's a white box that they then go to market with, and it looks like they made it?
Right. Excellent question. We actually serve both. Okay. There are plenty of the people at the table now that are simply buying what we call modules. Okay, so I went through the FCC and CE certification process and have those ready to go. And so they are actually buying the core radio transmitter receiver products, and we're doing some things for them. They buy them, and we help them embed it into their products. Okay, so there's plenty of companies that are starting to do that. We are in discussion with several volumes, and it tends to be on the higher volume applications that yes, but probably a licensing model will end up being the end of the day, and we help them all along their path as they move their products with this technology embedded.
Okay, so obviously, so you can license technology, but you also, of course, have physical products that you sell.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So are you manufacturing these in the state of Georgia?
So we're building, our focus from the day one on this is to build as much as we can here.
Yeah.
Okay. So example, I'm not going to try to drag things out with an anecdotal, but this is important. This little piece is
You're the only one on the
important.
show, Paul. You got time.
Okay,
Go
so one of the things that when I spent my years at Scientific Atlanta, I finished up as the Director of Strategic Business Development for a whole division of Atlanta. And a lot of times it was evaluating companies like us to see if we wanted to purchase their equipment, do we want to acquire maybe we want to buy the company. Let's have a look at them. And the lesson learned for the years of doing this is don't just show up with a set of slides, okay? Don't come in here with a little piece you sit on the table, and I go, what am I going to do with that? Okay, because that makes my sell to the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar corporation that harder. Okay, so our whole focus was, what we're going to do? We're going to develop the product, mature it, manufacture it. We're going to put it in some products, start selling at some level, demonstrate the products, and say, there it is. Okay, and when you show up with, as a matter of fact, we were at a guitar maker who shall remain anonymous, a major guitar maker. And we showed up, and we were showing them these things, and the marketing manager was kind of looking at us in puzzlement on the face, and we knew that. So what's the issue? And he said, well, a lot of people come in here telling us about things. You showed up with product. We don't get that very much.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's impactful, and that's another message that we try to tell a lot of the entrepreneurs that we used to develop for, right? You've got to carry it to a point that makes it easy for the people you're selling this to realize their dream. And the best way to do that is to have it something sitting there working.
Well, that's okay. So me as a a sales guy in anything that I've ever done, right? I'm always interested in the process of how one organization convinces another organization to purchase their product, use their services, and with yours, it's when you and I first talked, you talk about people coming into your showroom and basically saying you can't unhear that. Okay?
Right.
And I thought that was a fantastic phrase, but it relies on people physically coming in, and I'm just wondering, how does that impact your sales cycle?
Okay, so no, that's good. So we're reaching out now to a lot of the majors in verticals. I have a team of marketing and salespeople who are out there, and that's starting to happen now. And they're becoming aware of us. Actually, some of the calls we're getting, we're starting to see people scour the internet and find us and see that we're putting out products and where did this technology come from. Then, to get back to your question that I went all the way around to get to, we build all of the circuit boards in the United States. We build all the cabinets for our speakers are all made up here in Alpharetta. Okay, we do final assembly and test up in Lawrenceville at our R&D facility. We have no less than 6 contract manufacturers that build for us in this area. So we keep a large amount of it here in Georgia. We keep almost all of it in the United States. Of course, I'm a very honest person, so I have to tell you that anybody that tells you that 100% of any product made, period, is in one country is not telling you the truth. Okay, so there are components and things that are only made in certain places in the world. So we source those.
Sure.
Yeah.
But as much as possible.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. We definitely fit the bill. We fit the standard of made in America. Right, you betcha.
Yeah. Okay. So, it's obviously it can be hard to describe this sort of thing without, again, hearing it, right? But, okay, so someone comes in, right, and hears music on your speakers, or like what? Trying as much as possible explain how is it that different?
Yeah, and so some of the things that impact right away is we've encouraged people to bring in. What will happen has happened a number of times. People will bring in a little Bluetooth speaker, and they'll set it on one end of the room, and I'll have them play a song through it, and they'll play a song through it, and I'll say now. You for your phone, you went to that one speaker. That's great. Now I turn on 4 speakers, and I plug a tiny little USB dongle into their phone. I said, now play it to 4 of my speakers at the same time. Well, right out of the bat, right out there, oh my gosh. I said, yeah. The other part is go on, you can walk out the hall and go on the other side of the building, and it's still going to be connected. The range that we get is striking.
Yeah.
And then, of course, what they tell us is they're hearing things in the music, no matter what genre, that they just never heard before. Okay? They never heard it. I've actually had people come in. We've done a lot of target market test groups, if you will. We'll bring certain age groups in, and sometimes we'll come in the evenings, and we'll have wine and things, and we'll bring in people of different demographics. And I've even had people come in, well, I don't really listen to music much. Okay, and we set them down. And said, but if
how do you talk to those people?
Yeah, I know, right. So I said, okay, but if you do, what would you like to hear? And then I'll play it. And I actually had one individual gentleman do that, and he said, would you mind? I mean, I don't want to disrupt things, but can you play that song again? I said, certainly. So we played it again, and I think we played it 3 times before. And he said, I never, ever, ever knew there was another guitar playing in that song. Okay.
Yeah. So look, I'm sure you play the same game that I do, right? You can't listen to a piece of music and generally not try and figure out as best as you can how many guitar parts are in that song.
If you're a player, that's what happens, And, your brain goes to the next part. I wonder if I could play that part.
Right. And how many tracks are there? How many guys are doing what?
And I would say the other thing is, and we have a lot of conversations like this. We're very blessed that we have some very interesting musicians that have come in to hear what we play and use our stuff. And one of the things that arises from all the discussions is, why is it that different people like different kinds of music? Usually it's because you're exposed to some music at a point in your life where it made an emotional connection with you. That's usually what it is, okay? Whether you grew up in a certain area, and a lot of times it's when you were teens, very emotionally connected. And then what everybody's telling me is now I'm sitting here, and that same feeling has just come back to me. And it's 40 years ago, but there it is again.
Well, it's I feel like certain pieces of music, it's the same thing with, I think, movies and food to a certain degree.
It is
that it forms in your formative years this imprint on your mind that can no longer, that just can't, I've had this conversation with a number of friends of mine that there are probably bands that we all listen to as adults that, not that we would have hated it if we hadn't heard it till we were 30, but there's no way that we would like them as much as we still do if we hadn't gotten into them at 14.
Well, that's true. I mean, that's absolutely true. And then, like I said, I've had the good fortune to meet a lot of musicians and such that I listened to their music since I was very young, and so it's been fun. And just recently I had one in, and I'm not going to drop his name because I don't do that. I protect the guys. But let's just say,
very, very classy move.
And by the way, you learn really quickly if you want to meet more of these gentlemen and ladies, you remain that way, right?
Yeah, I get that.
But he's been in two of the top bands in history, and he was in about a month ago as he came through Atlanta, and he just sat there and he said, "Wow, this is amazing! It's just amazing." And so it's been wonderful to see the confirmation, if you will, from the professional people. Now, we have not just done that with the performers and the songwriters, which he was one. We've also done it with several studios where we've taken it in. We took the technology to New York to the Avatar Studios and spent an entire day there with a bunch of professional musicians coming through. And at the end of the day, the goal there, the musicians wanted to demonstrate. They played our wireless device with basses and guitars and various instruments. Then they played it plugged in straight to their amplifier with a cable. Then they played with our wireless. And the Avatar Studios engineers recorded both. And at the end of the day, the one particularly quiet engineer came up to me and said, "We have a problem." And he hasn't said 10 words all day. And I thought, oh boy, this has been a bust. And he said, he pulls up the 2 graphs. He goes, we can't tell them apart. We're getting the files mixed up. He said, you guys have got something here. So it makes a difference. It makes a difference to these people. And then in the end, in the listening experience, just adds a whole nother dimension.
Well, I love, and this is sort of the music snob in me, I suppose, but obviously there are plenty of us out there. The way that so many people interact with sound these days is off the crappy speakers in their iPhone.
And that, I know. I know. And you should hear the producers talk about that. It absolutely drives them crazy. And they understand. I mean, they understand. As a matter of fact, that's part of what is good timing for us. Okay? They realize that this mobile device is just the way people are going to access their music. So how can we make that as good as possible?
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so look, we've talked a lot about musicians. But again, you make speakers, right? Speakers can be used for many, many different applications.
Yeah. We make one of the product offerings we have is we decided to bring one out in this area because matter of fact, we've got, I lost count of the people, but we've got a particular individual who's been enthusiastic about us bringing a set of wireless speakers out that he could do wedding receptions and things with. And he does a lot of small venues, small stuff. And we actually took the technology and moved it into a microphone that connects directly to the 4 speakers at once. There is no mixing board. There's no consoles. There's nothing. There's no wires anywhere. And all day they can have speakers spread around. As a matter of fact, we added another capability so that you can have as much sound reinforcement as you need, as many speakers as you need. And that microphone will go straight to it. And we added an extra special feature to that one we were able to do with the technology. Because of the bandwidth, we actually were able to stream both the vocal, the microphone itself, but you can also plug right into the microphone adapter and run a soundtrack too. And some businesses are looking at this for pop-up events. They say, you know how easy this is when, we're gathering the team of 200 together at this giant big box store once a month, and, we're dragging out all this stuff. Now they don't drag out any, now you can just go to, couple of speakers, set them up 5 seconds, turn on the mic, go.
Yeah, I mean, it would seem to me this can be used, of course, for venues, of course, for studios, but event spaces, corporate events.
And that's exploding, okay? So, and there's other things that we all have coming that I'm not going to talk about today. One of the things that's very important, but certainly leave open to tell you about as we come along, okay, later on. But one of the things that's also goes hand in the glove with this is you do not stand still. Okay, we are a research and development organization. We are developing technology. So everything we're talking about today, you see that's up on the website, it is all mature and being offered now. But there's much more that we're working on. A very good lesson I learned from a friend of mine from a cell phone manufacturer many years ago, major, is you have the one that's out today, then you have the one right here. Here's a model of the one that's coming out in 6 months. Here's the one that's coming out in a year. And the last one he put on and he was like 5 levels down. The last one he put out was a carved wooden model. But you are always looking at the future.
Sure.
This is where we're going. So we're doing the same thing.
Well, okay, so that's an interesting point. Obviously, there are certain pieces of this that you're not going to tell me, but as you look forward, what's the bigger mission here? What's the end game?
Well, we just want to be eventually. We want Audality to be the choice for connecting music wirelessly. Okay, we're not trying to replace Bluetooth. We're not trying to replace Wi-Fi. Bluetooth was made so that you could eventually, at the onset, I want to be able to go to my printer without pulling the USB cable out. Well, it's great for data communications, and kudos to the manufacturers for stretching its capability to make it do audio and some other things. But we're trying to make it to the point where you want to really hear the audio. That's you hit that button for the Audality.
Okay, so it would seem, I'm going to put words in your mouth, you can tell me if I'm right or not. It seemed that your opinion of Bluetooth is amazing technology, great application for wirelessly communicating different pieces of data to separate sources. Easy for audio in terms of applicability, not high fidelity for audio.
Yeah, and again, I'm one of these. You'll never hear me slamming any competitor or any competing technology. I mean, if by any stretch of the imagination, it's been successful. Look at the millions and millions of them sold. But it's just not.
I didn't take this as a dig.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just not ideal. Okay.
Sure.
The modulation scheme adds noise to the thing for one thing, and then it does not have it just does not have the bandwidth to send the data that we do and to maintain that. I mean, it's all compressed. So, And then Wi-Fi suffers a little from a few other things, not the least of which you're trying to use it to send your emails on it, and it's a shared highway. Okay,
Yeah.
and what we've done is its own network, its own secure network, I might add, and just for sending audio. It doesn't do anything else. That's it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So if someone wants to find out about your products,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have a website,
Right.
Audality.com.
Right.
AUDALITY.
ITY.com.
Okay. And it sounds like you have somewhat of a showroom if someone actually wants to come and
So in my
test them
Atlanta
out.
area, and come in. And matter of fact, we have people now are coming from out of state. Traveling is happening now. So people come in, and yes, we'll have you in. You can come in where all the nitty-gritty things are done, but we have all the products set up so they can experience it, and we can discuss, what can be done to put it in their products too.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like you don't necessarily, like some restaurants, they have like a wall of celebrities. Doesn't sound like you've got anything like that. They just live in your head.
Well, no. If you do go on our website,
Yeah.
you will see that we have about 160 bands and musicians in our ambassadors program already.
Yeah.
It's just some of the names I'm talking about are, that are big names. They're coming in to see what's happening, to check in,
Yeah.
and they're so impactful. We did just announce that. I think this is. I'm clear to do this now because I know that the marketing team have already put it out there, and our agreements are moving in place. But we just signed a very impactful producer, songwriter, musician out of New York who's now starting to move with our products. He's actually doing an album right now and utilizing our products in that production, and that's Jerry Wanda of the Fugees. Okay.
Oh, that's great.
We exposed him to what we're doing. He's using them in his studio now, and he is just all about this. Okay, so we're bringing on names like that you're gonna hear more about in the coming months.
That's a great pedigree right there.
Yeah, not bad. Yeah.
All right, well, Paul, thank you very much for coming on, sharing your story, and thank you to our guest sponsor, Trevelino Keller, for supporting the show, and thank you to everyone for tuning in.
Thank you for having us.